very different situation, right?
Yes.
Anne and Richard.
Well, actually, this is actually documented in Chronicles. Anne's first husband was Edward, Margaret Anjou's son, and in 1472 he was killed in battle in which Richard fought, but Edward was her first husband. There's so many Edwards, it gets confusing. But he was killed. Edward Lancaster was killed, and Richard Clarence takes he hides her from Richard. Richard wanted to marry her. He asked permission from Edward, and it was probably even though it became a loving marriage, it was probably because Anne had a lot of property and she inherited a lot of property, which is why Clarence wanted to hold on to her, because he was married to Anne's sister, Anne's older sister, and he wanted all the property for himself. So he tried to keep Richard from getting his hands on her, and what he did was Anne was hidden away as a cook's maid in a tavern, one of Clarence's friends' properties, and Richard somehow found her and got her out and brought her to a sanctuary where she was protected, and George couldn't get his hands on her, and eventually he was able to marry her, and they were married for like about 12 years by the time Edward IV died, and they had a son who unfortunately died the next year. But in any case, it wasn't right at that time that they got married. And that was another dead person, was Margaret Anjou, had died the year before Edward died. And she's in the play.
She's notoriously a little off her rocker too. She was the French queen, and she went into battle. She led troops, and she was known as quite the handful. So yeah, Shakespeare did write her in, and she's one of the only people who really stands up to Richard in the production, and kind of gives it to her word for word.
What's her name?
Margaret Anjou.
And she really was Henry VI's consort. You know, she was his wife, and she did lead battles, and she was successful sometimes, but in the end she wasn't successful, and that's when her son was killed in battle.
So again, she's in our play. She does have the ability to sort of ghost-like waft in and out. You'll see what we've done with her to sort of acknowledge the fact that Shakespeare is playing around with time a little bit. So the more you know, the more you can come with it. So. Any other questions?
Now, he was the last English king to die in battle.
Yes.
Were there other English kings that went to battle after him that just weren't killed, or did they just not go into battle?
Actually, I don't know, but I don't think any English king went into battle, because Henry was in battle on the battlefield, but he actually didn't fight much. He hid behind his generals and.
Good fight. Yeah. You've got to have a good sword fight, right? Not a history play either.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Really
Thank you.
You're welcome. So
Very good.
Joan, the books are where? They're over.
They're over by the wine.
Oh, great.
So you can have a drink and buy a book.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.